At the same time as the voice appeared, countless black wandering souls arrived like demons descending from the sky and charged toward the insects. Several insects had already drilled into Lu Fei's body. His eyes were filled with despair when a cold wind blew over him. The insects inside his body came out and ran like they had just met their natural predator. Lu Fei was startled. His gaze fell on a not-so-large figure behind Zhan Bai. It is him. Song Qing's eyes were bloodshot. He had used up almost all of his spiritual energy, but the insects kept coming wave after wave. He let out a sad smile. He was almost out of spiritual energy, and he didn't even have time to take out pills. After pausing for just a moment, the insects covered his body. The pain was driving him mad. He let out a pitiful smile and was about to explode his nascent soul when a cold wind blew by. His body trembled. The insects inside and outside of his body all screamed and quickly fled. Song Qing was startled. He looked at the 70% foreign but 30% familiar figure behind Zhan Bai. It is him. At this moment, the two remaining late-stage nascent soul head elders also felt the cold wind. They were also startled, and then they saw that figure. It is him. All of the Cloud Sky sect disciples that were still alive felt a cold wind enter their bodies, and then the insects all screamed while they escaped. It is him. Almost all of the disciples raised their heads and saw that person. Li Muwen stared at the person behind Zhan Bai. She couldn't stop the tears in her eyes. Although Wang Lin's figure was a bit different from 100 years ago, she was able to immediately recognize him. Wang Lin. Zhan Bai quivered ever so slightly. Up until now, he didn't notice that person at all, meaning that his cultivation level was higher than his. He suddenly turned and saw Wang Lin. His face was filled with disbelief. He subconsciously took a few steps back and shouted, "You, Zhang Niu." The entire Cloud Sky sect was about to reach a boiling point when Zhan Bai shouted the name, Zhang Niu. Zhang Niu. Very few in the Cloud Sky sect didn't know this name. The most famous person in Suzaka right now was Zhang Niu. Zhang Niu. Some of the lower-ranked disciples were filled with shock. Zhang Niu. Lu Fei was completely stunned. Zhang Niu. Song Qing felt his mind shaking. The two late-stage nascent soul head elders' eyes glowed like they had never glowed before. Wang Lin's eyes became very cold. This coldness had only ever appeared when he was killing the Tang family. This coldness meant that Wang Lin's anger had reached its peak and he was about to kill. It is you who wants to wipe out the Cloud Sky sect. Wang Lin's voice was as cold as the cold winds of the underworld. This cold wind landed on Zhan Bai's body. To him, it felt colder than any wind he had ever experienced before. Wang Lin, who was able to take Red Butterfly's arm, appeared behind Zhan Bai without being noticed. This shocked Zhan Bai greatly. Before the battle even started, he already had thoughts of retreating. Zhan Bai said, "Zhang Niu, I didn't know you were from the Cloud Sky sect. This time I was reckless." Reckless. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he suddenly charged forward. The restriction flag came out of his bag of holding and turned into a black fog that charged toward Zhan Bai. Zhan Bai's expression changed. He immediately backed up. Reckless. Wang Lin let out a mad laugh. His hand formed a seal and then pointed forward. Dragons made of the restriction fog came out from the black fog and gathered before Wang Lin, condensing into a lance. This lance was able to even shock Red Butterfly. She had to use her life treasure to defend against it. The moment the lance appeared, the sky darkened. Black fog covered the sky, and all of the insects let out sharp shrills as if they had met their natural enemy. Zhan Bai's expression changed greatly. He continued to back up. Wang Lin grabbed the lance and chased after Zhan Bai. Time! Wang Lin let out a shout and 9 carvings immediately flew out. They each grew into the size of a real person in the air and spread out. Zhan Bai's retreating body suddenly slowed down. Reckless. During this pause, Wang Lin's lance lunged forward with a thunderous roar. Zhan Bai let out a roar. His hand formed a seal and the image of a centipede suddenly appeared on his forehead. Countless legs appeared all over Zhan Bai's body, forming a cocoon around him. The power of the lance could move the heavens and earth. Bang! With a bang, the lance landed upon the flesh cocoon. The restriction fog drilled into the cocoon viciously. The flesh cocoon immediately collapsed, and at that moment Zhan Bai quickly backed out from the cocoon. He coughed out a large mouthful of blood. There were countless maggots squirming inside this blood. It would make anyone's skin crawl. Zhang Niu. Don't push me too far. Zhanbai's eyes were completely bloodshot, and his voice was hoarse. He was completely shaken. The domain inside Wang Lin's lance made his injuries even worse. If it wasn't for his domain being so special, he would have been heavily wounded by Wang Lin already. Bully? Then today I'm going to bully you. Wang Lin's eyes were still cold. His right hand suddenly pointed forward and a very ordinary-looking ray of spiritual energy shot toward Zhanbai. Domain attack. His expression was very ugly. Without any hesitation, he turned around with the intention to escape. How could Wang Lin let him escape? He quickly chased after Zhanbai and pointed at him. The surrounding wandering souls immediately came from all directions to stop him from retreating. Zhanbai's face was ashen. He was about to escape with teleportation when Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He swiped his hand down and with a loud tearing sound, a spatial rift appeared. The spatial rift appeared right as Zhanbai was about to teleport. If he really did teleport, then he would be torn in half by the spatial rift. Madman! Zhanbai was terrified. He quickly stopped his teleportation. As cold winds blew out from the rift, the ground began to crack and the surrounding spiritual energy was sucked into it. Zhanbai had seen crazy people and he had killed soul formation cultivators before, but he was terrified of Wang Lin right now. Wang Lin had the most combat experience out of all the people he had faced. Just tearing open a rift was something all soul formation cultivators could do. However, it was the first time Zhanbai had seen it used to prevent teleportation. Opening such a big rift would cause Chu to lose its spiritual energy, meaning that this was simply too crazy. Wang Lin's eyes were still cold. As he continued to move toward, he pointed at the sky. Rings of light suddenly appeared behind him, forming a giant black and white scroll. You are lucky. You are going to be the second offering to the life and death domain. Wang Lin's voice was cold. His right hand pointed at Zhanbai as he said, Changes of life and death. The scroll behind him seemed to be disturbed by a giant hand and was opened. The scroll covered more than 10 kilometers and looked very majestic. Even the spatial rift closed before the power of the scroll. Slivers of gray mist spread out from the scroll. This was the first time he had used his domain at full power. He used all he had learned and understood about life and death and the heavenly reincarnation cycle in this attack. Zhanbai secretly complained, but he was a proud person. His eyes were completely bloodshot as he slapped his bag of holding, causing a swarm of red insects to appear. Zhanbai shouted, Tengnyo, there is no death grudge between us. Why must you go so far? I only killed a few disciples of your Cloud Sky sect. Now there is. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he pointed at Zhanbai. A thunderous roar came from the scroll and a vortex appeared. The vortex was surrounded by thick, gray fog. If one looked closely, they would see people's faces within the vortex. All of them were people who had died by Wang Lin's hand. This was Wang Lin's life and death domain. It was another heavenly reincarnation cycle, his own cycle. Unless Zhanbai's domain had also reached the mid-stage of soul formation, then resistance was futile. The bugs beside Zhanbai all let out miserable screams before dropping toward the ground. Every single bug was caught by a mass of gray gas and absorbed into the vortex. Zhanbai's bloodshot eyes revealed a hint of his very well-hidden fear. He let out a roar and pointed at his forehead. The centipede appeared again, and a rainbow-colored gas appeared on his forehead. This gas in almost an instant turned in a 100-meter-long centipede. What was most scary about this centipede was that there was another head under its head, and that head looked just like Zhanbai. This was his origin soul. Back when he was in the Nine-Ghost Desolate Valley, he fused with the soul of this beast to reach the soul formation stage. The domain he comprehended was the way of the insect beast. He used the body of a beast to use the power of the heavens. The heavens were cruel. Humans could kill beasts, so beasts could kill humans. Humans could eat beasts, so beasts could eat humans. If humans could become immortals, then that meant that beasts could also become immortals. Why would humans be the root of it all? Zhanbai's Tao was to use the soul of a beast as the root. The moment his origin soul appeared, he let out a roar and left his body. It flew up into the air, opened its mouth and charged toward the vortex. Wang Lin's eyes sparkled as he said, Arrogant. With a boom, the vortex suddenly expanded and devoured Zhanbai's origin soul like the ruthless heavens. Waves of miserable screams came from within, but they soon faded. The scroll disappeared and everything returned back to normal like nothing had ever happened. Wang Lin waved his right hand and Zhanbai's body collapsed into a pile of flesh and blood. There were maggots everywhere inside his body, releasing a very foul smell. With a frown on his face, Wang Lin pointed at the corpse. He created a ball of fire from thin air and launched it at the body. There was a series of sizzling sounds, which were followed by the noise of maggots shrilling before they turned to dust. There was only a bag of holding left on the ground. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he picked up the bag. He made a strange expression after scanning the bag. There were no items inside the bag. It was filled with insects. He pondered for a bit before placing a restriction on the bag. After putting the bag away, he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was above the cloud sky sect. He then slowly descended. Li Muan stared at Wang Lin. Her eyes were filled with tears of excitement. Just as she was about to speak, she started coughing violently and fell over. Wang Lin quickly arrived beside Li Muan and hugged her. After quickly tapping at a few spots on her body, his expression changed. His face darkened and he shouted, "Lu Fei Songqing, seal the sect. No one is allowed to leave before I come out." Wang Lin quickly flew toward the eastern courtyard with Li Muan in his arms. Lu Fei and Songqing quickly responded and went to do what they were told. A huge curtain of light covered the cloud sky sect, and the sect became hidden from prying eyes once again. The lucky disciples that survived all received orders to not go outside. They were all happy to follow that order. Because they couldn't go anywhere, they were all talking amongst themselves. Their topics basically all revolved around the name, Teng Niu. After Lu Fei and Songqing finished talking, they looked at each other. Both could see the excitement and fear in each other's eyes. The excitement was because the Cloud Sky sect had been saved and that Wang Lin was the famous Teng Niu. The fear was from Wang Lin's return. After all, even now they couldn't forget the bloody scene they had witnessed back then. The two of them flew toward the eastern courtyard but didn't dare to get too close. The two head elders who had much higher statuses than them had already arrived and were sitting outside waiting for Wang Lin. Inside the loft, Wang Lin sat cross-legged before Li Muan. The current Li Muan's face was very pale, her body was very weak, and she was surrounded by a deathly aura. Wang Lin stared at Li Muan with a very serious expression. After a while, he clenched his teeth and took out several top-quality spirit stones and placed them around her. Then he started to send spiritual energy into Li Muan. Time quickly passed, and 3 days later, Wang Lin was still frowning. He had been channeling spiritual energy into Li Muan non-stop for 3 days. If it was before he had reached the soul formation stage, he would have exhausted his spiritual energy by now. However, to a soul formation cultivator, this was not a big deal. At some point, Li Muan started to regain some color on her face. On the night of the 3rd day, she opened her eyes. When she opened her eyes, she saw Wang Lin before her and revealed a happy smile. Li Muan whispered, "Big brother Wang." Wang Lin secretly sighed and smiled. "It is not a big deal. I'm just sending spiritual energy into your body. Once your body is better, I'll help you reach the nascent soul stage." Li Muan smiled. Her smile was filled with happiness. She shook her head and asked, "Are you still going to leave?" Wang Lin solemnly said, "I'm not going anywhere for now." Li Muan's eyes lit up as she whispered, "Really?" Wang Lin nodded and said, "Really? You just got a bit better, so rest." Li Muan gradually fell asleep while leaning on Wang Lin's shoulder. Even after she fell asleep, the smile never left her face. That smile had never appeared on her face in the past 100 years. After a long time, Wang Lin gently carried Li Muan to her bed. He placed her on the bed, covered her up, and walked out of the loft. When he was outside, his expression immediately darkened. There was a total of 7 people sitting outside waiting for him. Aside from the 2 late-stage nascent soul head elders, Lu Fei and Songqing, there was Ouyangzi and 2 other nascent soul elders who had reached the nascent soul stage in the last 100 years. The moment Wang Lin walked out, the 7 of them opened their eyes and stood up. None of them dared to breathe. Memories of what Wang Lin did in the past still haunted them, and now he had appeared before them even more powerful than before. To them, Wang Lin was a terrifying person. Why is Wan Er's body like this? When I left 100 years ago, she was still fine. Wang Lin's voice was calm, but to the ears of these 7 it was terrifying. The 2 new nascent soul elders were so scared that they took a few steps back. Their faces were filled with fear. Even Lu Fei and them were completely shocked. Their nascent souls trembled. Only the 2 late-stage nascent soul head elders were able to keep calm before Wang Lin's voice. One of the head elders let out a sigh and said, "The sect master, Lady Wan Er, tried to reach the nascent soul stage 3 times in the past 100 years, and she failed every time. Her body can't handle it anymore, especially since the last try 30 years ago when she almost died." This person was the one who stood in front of Li Muan to protect her from Zhan Bai. Wang Lin looked at the person and said, "If I remember correctly, your surname is Lu?" The old man was very happy. He respectfully said, "Sect master still remembers me. I am Lu Fei." After Lu Fei knew that Wang Lin was Tsingyo, he decided to follow Wang Lin with hopes of reaching the soul formation stage himself. Those like him, who had been stuck at the late stage of nascent soul for this long, were very practical people. They were willing to give up anything to reach the soul formation stage. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before saying, "Even pills were useless." Lu Fei secretly sighed. Song Qing, who was next to him, said, "Sect master, Lady Wan Er has already taken a lot of pills only." Wang Lin raised his head. In his heart he already had a guess. His eyes were filled with confusion as he whispered, "Continue speaking." Song Qing clenched his teeth and said, "Only Lady Wan Er has lived a lot longer than a normal core formation cultivator should. Even with heaven-defying techniques, it will be hard to save her unless she is able to reach the nascent soul stage." Wang Lin pondered. When he was healing Wan Er's body, he noticed that her body was filled with a deathly aura. It was like an almost empty lamp. There was nothing that can be done about it because it was a sign that the person's life was reaching its end. "You guys can go." He turned around and returned to the loft. Before he entered, he suddenly stopped and said, "No rumors about the name Tsingyo are to get to the outside. You guys find some way to deal with the disciples." They all quickly agreed. After Wang Lin went in, head elder Lu Fei's eyes lit up. He stared at everyone with a cold gaze and said with a serious tone, "Everyone, if the sect master's identity is revealed, Suzaka's red butterfly will definitely come. We can't be careless about this matter." The other head elder, XIAN's, eyes lit up and he let out a smile. He was able to immediately see through Lu Fei's inner thoughts. His idea was the same. He quickly said, "That is correct. For those low-ranked disciples, all of you personally go and wipe out their memories. In addition, if any of you leak out the news, remember that Chu is your home. Don't blame me for being ruthless." Lu Fei and Songqing would naturally not expose it to the outside. Their eyes turned to the 2 new nascent soul elders who had just joined in the last 100 years. Their gaze was not kind. As for Ouyangzi, no one would consider him betraying them. This person only thought about alchemy. It could be said that he had given up on caring about these matters long ago. The 2 new nascent soul elders' faces were pale. One of them immediately swore upon the heavens. The other one quickly realized what was going on and swore as well. Lu Fei's eyes revealed a hint of killing intent. He looked at Taiyan and Taitan and saw them faintly nodding back at him. Lu Fei let out a laugh and nodded. "That is very good. The 2 of you follow me. I have some tips for nascent soul cultivators. I hope it will be of some use to the 2 of you." The 2 of them were very happy and quickly followed. However, one of them paused for a moment. His eyes revealed a hint of worry. Lu Fei let out a smile and took 2 steps forward. The person who was hesitating clenched his teeth and followed Lu Fei to the western courtyard. These 2 new nascent soul elders were never seen again after that day. There were only 2 new puppets surrounded by black mist following Lu Fei now. Wang Lin entered the loft and sat down next to Li Muan's bed. He watched her sleeping face and after a long time he whispered, "I only have to help you reach the nascent soul stage to extend your lifespan. This will not be hard." In the blink of an eye, 1 month passed. In this month, all of the disciples of the Cloud Sky sect had their memories wiped, so they all became curious about why the sect master had decided to go into closed-door cultivation. Lu Fei and Songqing once again began to manage the Cloud Sky sect. The Cloud Sky sect gradually returned to its former glory. Also, because many sects in Chu were destroyed, the Cloud Sky sect took this opportunity to act and increase their influence several-fold. As for Wang Lin, on the second day after Li Muwen became better, he took her and left the Cloud Sky sect. Following them were Lu Fei and Tai Yan. The two of them had given up their places as the head elders of the Cloud Sky sect to follow Wang Lin in order to reach the soul formation stage. Wang Lin and Li Muwen traveled across much of Chu. They talked and laughed with each other all along the way. Li Muwen felt happiness she had never felt before and was very satisfied. She was also always around Wang Lin during this trip, just like a little wife. In the end, they stopped deep in the mountains in an area of Chu. This place was completely deserted. The closest village was more than 10,000 kilometers away. In one of the valleys, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and a pagoda appeared. This place was one of the EN energy gathering spots in Chu. Wang Lin remembered that Zhou said that this pagoda could only be placed in a place with EN energy. The pagoda made of celestial jade immediately expanded in the air until it was 1,000 feet tall. With a bang, it landed in the valley, and then a ring of light suddenly expanded around it. Zhou Yi's ascendant-level domain covered the area. Lu Fei and Tai Yan's expressions suddenly changed when they saw the ring expanding. They felt like they were facing the power of the heavens. The nascent souls in their bodies were being compressed by this pressure and showed signs of collapsing. However, after Wang Lin waved his hand, the pressure disappeared. The two of them let out sighs of relief. Their gazes toward Wang Lin became even more respectful. What is this? Li Muwen looked at the pagoda with eyes filled with curiosity. Wang Lin smiled. Inside the tower is a female corpse. She is the wife of a senior who asked me to look after her before his death. Then Wang Lin told Li Muwen Zhou and Ting Er's story. Li Muwen was a very emotional girl, so she was completely moved by the story. Li Muwen whispered, "I wonder how Senior Zhou is after he turned into a sword spirit and went to the Dalu sword sect." Wang Lin pondered. After a long time, he shook his head and said, "No matter what the result, that was his choice. I hope he can get his wish." Li Muwen nodded. Her gaze toward the pagoda changed. Wang Lin decided to build a few stone houses beside the pagoda using the stones from the mountain. Li Muwen was happily helping. When Wang Lin looked at Li Muwen, he let out a faint smile. Li Muwen wiped the sweat off her forehead, placed down the last piece of stone, and said to Wang Lin in a crisp voice, "From today onward, this is our new home." Wang Lin nodded. Seeing the fatigue on her face made Wang Lin's heart ache for some reason. With his power, there was no need for her to help, but she insisted on helping. This kind of determination was very rare from her. Li Muwen had always been gentle, even a bit weak. However, within that weakness there was a very powerful determination. Because she insisted, Wang Lin couldn't refuse her and agreed to let her help. He could see that Li Muwen was very happy. Whenever she looked at him, her eyes were filled with tenderness and a hint of sadness. Aside from that hint of sadness, this was the same gaze that his mother looked at his father with. It was the same as Zhou Yi's gaze toward Ting Er when he awakened. After doing some maintenance Li Muwen's body with spiritual energy and seeing that she had fallen asleep, Wang Lin let out a sigh and walked out of the stone room. It was currently dark outside, and the moon was high in the sky. Lu Fei and Tai Yan were cultivating outside. When they saw Wang Lin, they both stood up. "Sect Master." Wang Lin looked at the two and said with a deep voice, "How long have the two of you stayed at the late stage of nascent soul?" Lu Fei and Tai Yan were extremely happy. The reason they followed Wang Lin was because they were hoping he would help them reach the soul formation stage. However, Wang Lin never talked about this matter in this entire month. The two of them didn't dare to ask, so they could only silently wait. Lu Fei suppressed the excitement in his heart and said, "Junior has already been at the late stage of nascent soul for 143 years. Tai Yan took a deep breath and respectfully said, "Junior has been here for 172 years. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as his gaze scanned the two of them. He shook his head and said, "The two of you have walked the wrong path." Lu Fei and Tai Yan silently pondered. After a long time, Tai Yan let out a bitter smile and said, "Sect Master, Chu never had a soul formation cultivator before. We have asked the messenger before, but he gave us no answer. In fact, many years ago, I guess that this kind of bitter closed-door cultivation wouldn't help us break into the soul formation stage at all, but I don't know what the key points are. Junior Brother Liu and I have studied this for a long time, and came to the conclusion that it must depend on our own understanding. Wang Lin let out a sigh. He looked back at the stone room behind him and said, "Every soul formation cultivator must have their own understanding. The heavens are ruthless and we are trying to understand the heavens. However, you need a hint of emotion to move you along, at least enough to move yourself. The spiritual energy inside the two of you is too much of a mess, and the area 50 kilometers from this pagoda is the best place for you two to train. Go out 50 kilometers away from it. When you can get within 1,500 meters of the pagoda using your own cultivation, come back here." The two of them were shocked, but they seemed to have understood something. One went east and the other went south. Both of them sat down 50 kilometers away, and began to comprehend what Wang Lin had just said. After the two of them left, Zhou Yi's domain reappeared and covered the surrounding 50 kilometers. Time quickly passed by. On this day, Wang Lin was doing maintenance Li Muen's body. Li Muen wiped the sweat off of Wang Lin's forehead and whispered, "I can tell that my body is no longer able to go on. It is fine." Wang Lin shook his head. He only had to do maintenance on her body once a day 1 month ago, but now he had to do it 3 times in 2 days. This meant that Li Muen's body would continue to deteriorate. Wang Lin solemnly said, "You will not die." Li Muen gently nodded and let out a beautiful smile. She quietly looked at Wang Lin like she could never see enough of him. Wang Lin rubbed her nose and smiled. "I kept forgetting to give you these. They are the gifts that I got for you." With that, he took a few jades out of his bag of holding. Li Muen let out a smile. When she received them, she was very surprised. Rank 5 pill recipes. These are all very valuable items. Wang Lin smiled. "Since you brought your pill furnace along, you can try them out when you have free time." Li Muen's eyes lit up. The current her looked very attractive. Li Muen looked at Wang Lin with her beautiful eyes and smiled. "I wanted to ask about why your appearance changed again. Also, how did you become Tsang Niu?" Wang Lin told Li Muen in detail what happened to him in the past 100 years. This made Li Muen's eyes bulge out. Li Muen said with worry, "If that red butterfly finds out that you are Tsang Niu, she will definitely come for you." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He calmly said, "With my current cultivation, I only need a few more years to reach the mid-stage of soul formation. I'm 70% confident that I can defeat her again at that time." Li Muen looked at Wang Lin and suddenly said, "Do you still remember the cave in the Sea of Devils? Wang Lin, I want to go see it. I also want to see Ho Fun." Wang Lin said, "Okay, the treasure refining pavilion is going to auction a rank 6 pill recipe soon. I'll go and buy it for you." "Aha!" Li Muen revealed a happy smile. Looking at Li Muen's smile, Wang Lin's heart ached once more. He looked at Li Muen, never taking his eyes off her. Li Muen's pretty little face gradually grew red. Wang Lin said word for word, "I won't let you die. I won't let it happen." Li Muen gently nodded. At night, after Li Muen went to sleep, Wang Lin went outside and looked up at the moon with sadness in his eyes. Li Muen's body was getting a bit better with the help of spiritual energy, but the cycle of the heavens was not something an individual could change. The deathly aura on her was even thicker than before. Only by reaching the nascent soul stage can her lifespan be extended. However, with how weak her body is, it's impossible for her to form her nascent soul. One heir has already reached the end of her lifespan, so even if I remove her soul, she can't possess a body. Unlike Wang Zhua, who had already reached the nascent soul stage and was strong enough to avoid the law of the heavens. He had to obtain the recipe for that rank 6 cultivation pill. The rank 6 pill could help one heir's body recover a bit. As long as her body recovers, I can help her reach the nascent soul stage. I owe her too much for all these years I've been gone." Wang Lin stared into the sky. His figure seemed to grow larger as a sense of loneliness washed over him. He let out a sigh, then he revealed a determined expression before sitting down. He pondered for a long time before touching the beast trap on his wrist. He threw the bracelet out and it turned into the thunder toad before landing on the ground. The thunder toad's breathing was very weak. and its body was covered in injuries. It had the energy to exhale but not to inhale. Wang Lin waved his right hand and a bottle of pills appeared in his palm. He placed one pill in the toad's mouth and used his spiritual energy to help the toad digest it. For several days he fed the toad one pill every single day. This pill was made by Ouyangzi especially for Li Muwen, but after having taken so many pills they didn't have much effect anymore. After all, Li Muwen's illness came from her lifespan reaching its limit, not from injuries. After the Thunder Toad absorbed the pills and looked healthier, Wang Lin put it back into the beast trap. If Wang Lin were to remove the beast trap seal on the Thunder Toad right now, then it would die, so he never removed it. Wang Lin turned around and looked at the stone house before taking out a treasure sword from one of the Dalu sword sect disciples to study. The restrictions on the treasure sword were very different from the ones Wang Lin had learned. He had been studying them for a while now and finally found some clues. The night slowly passed by and the moonlight slowly dimmed. Then as the sun appeared in the east, the moon slowly faded away. On this night, Wang Lin mastered 9 restrictions, all of which he added to the restriction flag. Now there were 145 groups of restrictions on the restriction flag, still very far from the goal of 999 groups. 3 days later, Wang Lin and Li Muwen left the valley. Tai Yin and Lu Fei followed them. Wang Lin didn't take the pagoda but left it there. Unless an ascendant cultivator came, no one on Suzaku could take it away. At the edge of Chu, Wang Lin opened an ancient transfer array and disappeared with Li Muwen, Lu Fei, and Tai Yin. Lu Fei and Tai Yin once again felt Wang Lin's power. They had lived for a long time, but this was the first time they were able to experience an ancient transfer array. Inside the Sea of Devils, near the border of Ho Fuan, a transfer array suddenly lit up and 4 people walked out. There were 3 males and 1 female. The male and female walking in front were clearly a cultivation pair, and the 2 behind them were their guards. Li Muwen sighed and said, "I haven't come back here in many years. Wang Lin, let us go back to see that battle dragon formation. I wonder how many people from back then are still alive." Battle dragon formation. Wang Lin remembered that Li Muwen had gifted him a jade back then which contained that formation. The 4 of them slowly flew across the outer part of the Sea of Devils until they arrived at the Fighting Evil sect near Nando City. Before them was a giant mountain. The top of the mountain had been carved into the head of a dragon by someone. From above, it looked like a giant dragon coiling around the mountain. However, the dragon was a mess right now. Not only were there parts of the dragon missing, but the head of the dragon had been split in half by someone. Li Muwen looked at the dragon from the distance and silently pondered. Wang Lin secretly sighed. When he scanned the area before, he found that the Fighting Evil sect was no more. There were no longer any cultivators remaining. Instead, it was filled with some low-ranking demonic beasts. Li Muwen whispered, "Wang Lin, do you still remember back then when you brought me all the way here?" Wang Lin nodded and said, "Time passes and people change." Li Muwen turned toward where the cave they once lived in used to be and said, "I wonder if the cave from back then still exists." Wang Lin let out a faint smile and wrapped his arm around Li Muwen's waist. Both of them disappeared in a ray of light. Lu Fei and Tai Yin quickly followed them with their divine senses spread out. After all, this was the Sea of Devils, not Chu. Far behind Wang Lin and Li Muwen, Lu Fei sighed. It seems the rumor that elderly lived in the Sea of Devils for a while was true. Tai Yin replied, "Maybe this is how sect master and elderly met." "Brother Lu, it seems like your cultivation has improved a bit." Lu Fei smiled. "I can only get about 1,000 feet closer to the pagoda. I'm still very far." Tai Yin remained silent. He had only gone 500 feet closer. He decided that after returning, he would work even harder. Wang Lin flew at supersonic speeds while holding Li Muwen. The sonic booms he created traveled very far, shocking all the cultivators that heard it. Not long after, Wang Lin and Li Muwen arrived at where the cave was. However, the mountain the cave was in had completely disappeared. Time passes, people change. Li Muwen's eyes dimmed. In only a few hundred years, the dragon formation was destroyed, the cave disappeared, the memories of the past faded with time. The deathly aura around Li Muwen suddenly became stronger. She bit her lower lip and said, "I don't want to go to Hofen anymore. After we buy the pill recipes, let us go home." Lu Fei and Tai Yin stood behind them. They both secretly sighed and remained silent. Wang Lin stared at Li Muwen and whispered, "The cave didn't disappear." With that, he waved his right hand and the power of a soul formation cultivator spread out. Thunderous roars echoed in the sky and the ground suddenly cracked open. Shortly after, a powerful force rose from underground, causing the ground to crack even more. A bump appeared on the ground, and it grew larger and larger. In the blink of an eye, a mountain appeared. This mountain looked exactly the same as the one they lived in back then. The creation of this mountain made the ground shake violently. Everyone within 10,000 kilometers felt this shaking, alerting every cultivator in the area. Some of the self-proclaimed powerful cultivators all flew toward the center of the shaking. More and more cultivators gradually arrived, only they didn't dare to get close. They stared at it from 10,000 feet away in terror. Wang Lin pointed at the mountain and a cave suddenly appeared in its center. After a bit of manipulation by Wang Lin, the cave was exactly the same as the one from back then. The cave didn't disappear. Wang Lin turned around and looked at Li Muwen. Li Muwen stared at the cave and let out a smile. This smile made the deathly aura around her regress a bit. Inside the cave, Li Muwen was like a happy little girl looking here and there. She would often grab Wang Lin and speak of the past. Li Muwen laughed. "I waited for you for 3 years back then. I didn't expect there to be a group of people chasing you when you returned. Also, back then when you returned, you were carrying a dragon with you." "A dragon? I have always wanted to ask how you got it, but back then you were so cold that I was too scared to ask." Li Muwen tenderly looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin rubbed his nose. He silently smiled. After staying in the cave for 3 days, Li Muwen reluctantly left. Wang Lin took Li Muwen and they flew toward Devil Rebel City. This trip to the Sea of Devils made Wang Lin happy. The deathly aura on Li Muwen had definitely regressed. Using the ancient transfer arrays, they appeared before Devil Rebel City after 8 days of travel. After paying a few spirit stones to enter, Lu Fei quickly found an inn for the 4 of them. XIAN had traveled through the Sea of Devils when he was young, so he was much more experienced than Lu Fei. Wang Lin ordered XIAN to go to the treasure refining pavilion, and he returned with an invitation. "Sect Master, the auction is in 7 days. This is the invitation." XIAN respectfully handed the invitation to Wang Lin. Wang Lin and Li Muwen explored Devil Rebel City throughout these 7 days. Li Muwen felt very happy in those few days. In fact, aside from back during the worry-free days when she was still at the Luhi sect, this was the happiest she had ever been. After 7 days, the auction that was held every 10 years by the treasure refining pavilion started. Inside the largest 3-story pagoda in Devil Rebel City, countless cultivators sat in the first floor. When Wang Lin's group arrived, 2 Foundation establishment disciples of the treasure refining pavilion accepted the invitation and lead them inside to the Great Hall. The middle-aged man who previously sold the recipe to Wang Lin was also in the Great Hall. He was casually talking to a few cultivators he was familiar with, but his expression slightly changed when he spotted Wang Lin. He quickly said goodbye to his friends and walked toward Wang Lin. He stopped 3 feet before Wang Lin bowed and respectfully said, "I'm honored that Senior would come. Senior, this place is messy. Let us go to the 3rd floor." The surrounding cultivators that knew the middle-aged man were shocked. This person had a very high position in the treasure refining pavilion, and a bright future ahead of him. He almost never talked like this to anyone, making this a rare sight. Everyone's gazes turned toward Wang Lin. Everyone was shocked when they inspected Wang Lin. In their eyes, Wang Lin looked like a mortal without any spiritual energy. But how could he be a mortal if he could come here? As for Li Muwen, who was next to Wang Lin, she was a late-stage core formation cultivator with a weak body. What shocked everyone the most were Lu Fei and Tai Yang, late-stage nascent soul cultivators. Even inside the Sea of Devils, late-stage nascent soul cultivators were rare. In the Great Hall right now, less than 5 people had reached this cultivation level. No matter where in the Sea of Devils, these were the kinds of people that could cause an earthquake with just a simple stomp of their feet. The appearance of these 2 normally wouldn't be such a big deal, but from where they stood, it seemed like they were the servants of a mortal. How could everyone not be shocked by this? Adding on the respectful attitude of the middle-aged man, this person's status skyrocketed in people's hearts. Under the middle-aged man's careful guidance, Wang Lin's group went up to the 3rd floor. The entire third floor only had 3 rooms, and each of them was very luxurious. 2 of them were already occupied. Wang Lin's group entered the room on the right. The middle-aged man accompanied them for a while, but after seeing a trace of impatience on Wang Lin's face, he quickly left. When he walked out of the room, his back was covered in sweat. He took a deep breath and then quickly left. After Wang Lin left the treasure refining pavilion that day, he asked the old man about Wang Lin. That old man was a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, but he cowered after just one look from Wang Lin. A cultivator like this had to have reached the legendary soul formation stage. The middle-aged man couldn't think of another reason the old would cower like that. Soul formation cultivators were in existence that no one dared to mess with in the Sea of Devils. The reason the treasure refining pavilion was able to take root and grow in the Sea of Devils was because they had a soul formation cultivator. This was why when he saw Wang Lin today, he was willing to act humbly. After all, his status meant nothing before someone like this. He quickly went downstairs and stopped outside a room on the 2nd floor. He said in a low voice, "Disciple Su Luo has an urgent message to pass on to Ancestor." A feminine and charming voice said from inside the room, "Come inside." The middle-aged man took a deep breath and quickly walked inside. After a very long time, the middle-aged man walked out. His expression had returned to normal, and he returned downstairs to talk with the cultivators he was familiar with again. All of those people kept on trying to get information on Wang Lin, but the middle-aged man just dodged the questions. At this moment, 10,000 kilometers outside of Devil Rebel City, in an underground cave sat an old man. This old man was busy cultivating when he suddenly opened his eyes and pointed at the air. An image formed before him, and a very beautiful girl appeared in the image. This girl was extremely beautiful. There was a hint of a very special kind of beauty to her, and her eyes were very charming. The girl respectfully said a few things before saying her goodbyes and disappearing. A suspicious soul formation cultivator? The old man's eyes lit up and then he suddenly disappeared. This person was the one that Wang Lin met when he was only a core formation cultivator, and also the same person he met when he went to the chaotic broken stars the 2nd time. It was the cultivator with the turtle. Disciples of the treasure refining pavilion brought fruit especially produced in the Sea of Devils to the room on the 3rd floor, but no one touched them. When sitting in this room, one only needed to look down to see the giant stage where the auction will take place. Wang Lin and Li Muwen quietly chatted with each other. Li Muwen would occasionally smile, revealing a look of tenderness and satisfaction. Lu Fei and Tai Tan sat cross-legged at the door, both cultivating. At some point, Wang Lin gave the 2 of them some pointers, inspiring them to cultivate even more enthusiastically. They had been cultivating almost the entire time they had been here. According to Wang Lin, only after sorting out all the chaos in their spiritual energy could they start comprehending the soul formation stage. Although the 2 of them had been late-stage nascent soul cultivators for a long time, they still hadn't reached the peak of the late stage of nascent soul. Unless they gained some special understanding, the only way was to reach peak of late-stage nascent soul step by step and then try to break through to the soul formation stage. Ever since they started following Wang Lin, they felt extremely confident about reaching the soul formation stage. Although the 2 of them had lived longer than Li Muwen, it was not by much. If they couldn't reach the soul formation stage in 100 years, they would die. This was one of the main reasons why they were determined to follow Wang Lin. Just at this moment, a divine sense came from the room to the left. Lu Fei and Tai Yan suddenly opened their eyes. Lu Fei spread out his divine sense to slam into the incoming divine sense. A miserable scream came from the room to the left, and the divine sense quickly dissipated. Wang Lin didn't pay any attention to this at all. He continued to talk with Li Muwen. This was because he had barely ever spent any time with her. Even more so than tenderness, Wang Lin felt like he owed her too much. A divine sense came from the room to the left again, but this time it was multiple divine senses intertwined together. Tai Yan's eyes lit up, and along with Lu Fei, they both spread out their divine senses and slammed into the incoming divine sense. So bold. I want to see who dares to be this arrogant. A cold voice from the room to the left said. Lu Fei and Tai Yan's divine senses lost, but they weren't injured. Instead, they sneered. Sect Master, this person isn't a soul formation cultivator. He only has been in the late stage of nascent soul longer than the 2 of us. He must be at the peak of the late stage of nascent soul. The moment Lu Fei finished speaking, a person walked out of the room to the left. This person was wearing purple and had a head of white hair. He made his way toward Wang Lin's room. He was very angry. Originally, his disciple was just curious because he saw the treasure refining pavilion Su Luo personally lead someone in and wanted to see who they were. However, he didn't expect that person to shatter his disciple's divine sense and injure him, so he angrily walked out. After arriving outside the room, the old man opened the curtain and looked inside. However, all he was met with Wang Lin's cold stare. The old man's eyes met Wang Lin's, and then he suddenly took several steps back. His forehead was covered in sweat, and his nascent soul was almost shattered. He immediately realized that the young man must have been a soul formation cultivator. The old man secretly complained. He didn't want to cause trouble with a soul formation cultivator, but he was too afraid to move. He could only let out a bitter smile and say, "Junior didn't know that Senior was here. I was rash and hope Senior can forgive me." Wang Lin began to ponder. When he laid his eyes on this old man in purple, he felt a sense of familiarity. It must have been someone he knew. However, it had been too long and he couldn't remember right away. At this moment, a laugh suddenly came from outside as the old man from the treasure refining pavilion walked up to the third floor. He didn't even look at the purple-robed old man when he arrived outside the door. With a smile on his face, he said, "I, cultivator who heard that there was a fellow soul formation cultivator at the auction this time. I came to see, but I didn't expect to meet someone I knew." As he spoke, the curtain to the room opened on its own and the old man walked in. Lu Fei and Tai Yan's expressions changed. They quickly backed up and stood behind Wang Lin. "Sit." Wang Lin faintly smiled. The old man looked at Li Muwen and smiled. "Looks like fellow cultivator made it. I wonder how many flame threads you managed to obtain." Wang Lin was shocked. When they met back then, he was wearing the straw hat and didn't allow the old man to see his true identity. The old man must have had his own special method to be able to recognize Wang Lin at a glance. Wang Lin smiled and said, "The hole was too small, so I didn't get many." The old man nodded before saying, "I was also limited by the hole and didn't get many. However, when I went there a few years ago, I found an ancestral thread that had grown quite a bit." After he finished speaking, he looked toward Wang Lin. He was very wary of Wang Lin. If it wasn't for the fact he cultivated a secret technique that allowed him to identify someone by their physical body, he wouldn't have known that Wang Lin was that soul formation cultivator with the straw hat. At this moment, the purple-robed old man was in an awkward position. He didn't dare to leave, so he only stood there. While the white-haired old man and Wang Lin talked, the auction downstairs started. In the beginning, there were only some treasures and pills that were very popular. Li Muwen quietly sat beside Wang Lin. She would sometimes look down at the auction with a smile on her face. The old man's eyes lit up and he said, "Fellow cultivator, you look very familiar. Aside from that time outside the chaotic broken stars, we must have met before." When he first entered the room and recognized Wang Lin as the cultivator from outside the chaotic broken stars, he was confused. When he looked at Wang Lin, he felt a sense of familiarity, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't remember. This was very rare for a soul formation cultivator. The white-haired old man believed that if he had seen someone before, he wouldn't forget them. Wang Lin faintly smiled and didn't respond. He then waved at the purple-robed old man outside. The purple-robed old man secretly let out a sigh of relief. He walked up and said, "Junior Cho Siping greets Senior." With that, he turned toward the white-haired old man and said the same thing. The white-haired old man gently replied, but he clearly revealed a hint of dissatisfaction when he did. He thought that it was fine if Wang Lin didn't want to answer his question because they were both soul formation cultivators, but why call in this nascent soul junior? Wang Lin smiled. "Fellow cultivator Chiu, we haven't met in many years. I hope you are well." Chiu Siping was startled. Even the white-haired old man's eyes lit up as he looked toward Chiu Siping. Chiu Siping carefully looked at Wang Lin. The more he looked, the more familiar Wang Lin seemed, but he couldn't remember anything. He carefully asked, "Senior knows Junior?" Wang Lin smiled. "It has been a very long time. I'm afraid you have forgotten. If I hadn't heard your name, I would have forgotten too." Back then we split the two nascent souls, one each, and also the map. Do you remember now? Chiu Siping revealed a look of disbelief. He sucked in a breath of cold air and shouted, Wang Lin, you reached the soul formation stage. Wang Lin nodded. Then he looked at the white-haired old man and smiled. Did fellow cultivator who remember anything? The white-haired old man's eyes were filled with disbelief. He looked at Wang Lin for a very long time before letting out a wry smile. He said, I remember. I can't believe the core formation cultivator from back then has reached the soul formation stage. He remembered now. Back then he ran into Wang Lin and Chiu Siping, and was able to immediately notice a strange power within Wang Lin. It looked like the legendary Ji realm, so he became greedy. He wanted to accept Wang Lin as a disciple by force, and see if he could extract the Ji realm. However, he never thought that after hundreds of years, that person would have reached the soul formation stage, the same cultivation level as him. The idea he had from back then immediately dissolved. Chiu Siping was completely startled as he recalled memories of his past. Wang Lin was still ahead above him. During the core formation stage, he couldn't beat Wang Lin. After he reached the nascent soul stage, he still couldn't beat Wang Lin. Now he had reached the peak of the late stage of nascent soul, but when he saw Wang Lin again, Wang Lin had already reached the soul formation stage. The white-haired old man laughed and said, I was reckless back then. I hope fellow cultivator Wang won't hold it against me. Then he suddenly changed the topic and asked, I wonder what kind of treasure fellow cultivator Wang is here for? Wang Lin smiled. A rank 6 pill recipe. The old man revealed complex expression and said, If it was anything else, I would be able to help you, but this rank 6 pill recipe is something someone else asked us to sell. Wang Lin shook his head. No problem. If I can't win it, then I'll just steal it and make a copy. The white-haired old man laughed and then no longer spoke. The first floor had already sold a lot of pills and treasures. Shortly after, Su Luo walked up on stage and shouted, The next item is a very valuable treasure. I'm sure everyone here already knows that it is a rank 6 pill recipe. This recipe has never been opened since it arrived at our treasure refining pavilion. It still has the seal placed by the owner, as everyone can see. Rank 6 pills are things only Suzaku can produce, but you can too if you have the recipe. Everyone understands the value of the recipe, so I won't say more. There is also a change in the rules. Offers must be made with high-quality spirit stones, but we will take any treasures as well. My treasure refining pavilion will evaluate the price. All 3 floors immediately became silent. Many people had come for this recipe. Soon people started shouting offers. Li Muwen was a bit nervous. Wang Lin gently patted her hand. His expression didn't change as he looked down at the first floor. Chiu Siping revealed a bitter smile. He came this time for the pill recipe as well, and he was well prepared. However, he didn't dare to bid on it at all. Soon the price was raised up to 10,000 high-quality spirit stones. This price could be considered a very big deal. More than 10,000 spirit stones. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He didn't have more than 10,000 high-quality spirit stones with him, but he did have several top-quality spirit stones. Just one of them was priceless and it could beat all other offers. However, it seemed like one wouldn't be enough. He would require several. In the end, although he could obtain it, he would have to pay quite a bit. Of course, he could trade celestial jade for it as well. However, due to Wang Lin's personality, although he had to have it, he wouldn't buy it himself if its price became too high. Wang Lin pondered for a bit. He slapped his bag of holding and a wooden carving appeared in his hand. It was one of the defective statues containing the domain of time he had made. There were traces of the domain of a soul formation cultivator on it, but it contained the power of a peak late-stage nascent soul cultivator. There were also several blood veins inside it, so this wooden carving was like a puppet. There was no limit in the number of times it could be used. This kind of treasure would be very important to the cultivators of the Sea of Devils. The white-haired old man's eyes lit up when he glanced at the wood carving. He was moved by it. What he cared about wasn't the wood carving but the method in which the wooden carving was made. The treasure refining pavilion became famous for refining treasures. This old man was very skilled at refining treasures, so he was able to instantly notice the abnormality of the wooden carving. Whether it was the faint domain of a soul formation cultivator or the blood veins inside, both were very intricate. However, the blood veins felt very familiar to him for some reason. Wang Lin took out the wooden carving, threw it down to the stage and said, "I offer this item." Su Luo had always been paying attention to the third floor. When he saw the wooden carving being thrown down, he immediately caught it. Then he handed it over to several treasure appraisers. The moment the appraisers saw this wooden carving, their expressions changed and they began to quietly debate. The white-haired old man pondered for a bit. Then his eyes suddenly became serious and he asked Wang Lin, "Fellow cultivator, could the blood veins inside the wooden carving be Shui Yu's puppet-creating technique?" Wang Lin looked at the white-haired old man. He was shocked that he was able to recognize it. However, after thinking about it, this old man must have lived for a very long time and, being the head of the treasure refining pavilion, he must have seen a lot. Wang Lin nodded. Just at this moment, the appraisers raised their heads. One of them said, "I have never seen anything like this before, but we are sure that the effect is as powerful as a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. We price it at 5,000 high-quality spirit stones." The moment everyone heard this, the people on the first floor all looked at the wooden carving and then at the third floor. Wang Lin frowned. The value of this object was definitely not just 5,000 high-quality spirit stones. The old man also frowned. He let out a snort like he was sending a voice transmission. Those appraisers didn't know anything. With his cultivation, he could tell that with just the blood veins inside the object, the price would be several times higher, and that's not even considering the sliver of domain inside it. These 5,000 high-quality spirit stones weren't even enough for the pill recipe, which was already priced at 10,000 spirit stones. Wang Lin's eyes remained calm and he didn't speak. Instead, he looked toward the door of the room. Shortly after, a very beautiful girl came up from the second floor. She greeted Wang Lin, placed down a purple jade, and left. The white-haired old man said, "Fellow cultivator, I'll buy that puppet of yours. This purple jade can be traded for 20,000 high-quality spirit stones at any treasure refining pavilion." Wang Lin smiled. He didn't even look at the jade before shouting, "I offer 20,000 high-quality spirit stones." This caused everyone to be in shock, but then a voice came from the center room of the third floor. A girl's voice said, 30,000 high-quality spirit stones. Wang Lin frowned. Qiu Siping clenched his teeth and said, "Brother Wang, I have 40,000 high-quality spirit stones." "No need." Wang Lin's voice was calm. Even in Suzaku, 30,000 high-quality spirit stones was a high price. No one offered any more for a long time, and in the end, the rank 6 pill recipe was obtained by the person in the center room. Although rank 6 pill recipes were rare, the materials required to make the pill itself were mostly extinct, so 30,000 high-quality spirit stones was already a sky-high price. Of course, if it was an already made rank 6 pill, it would be a different story. The white-haired old man shook his head and left. He didn't take the purple jade with him. "Let's go." Wang Lin stood up and put the jade away. Although he looked calm, there was a hint of coldness in his eyes. He and Li Muan went downstairs and returned to their inn. In their room, Li Muan whispered, "Wang Lin, that rank 6 pill recipe doesn't matter. We don't even know what kind of recipe it was." Wang Lin smiled. "You wait for me here. I must have that recipe." Li Muan hesitated for a bit before gently nodding. Wang Lin's gaze landed on Lu Fei and Tai Yan and he said, "The two of you stay here and guard her." Lu Fei and Tai Yan immediately nodded. Wang Lin's body disappeared from the spot. When he appeared, he was already outside of Devil Rebel City. He spread out his divine sense and his body disappeared again. When he reappeared this time, he was on a mountain 3,000 kilometers away. He saw a girl wearing a green dress there. He couldn't see her face because there was a white veil covering it. Beside her stood an old man. The old man's eyes remained calm. There didn't seem to be any spiritual energy within him. When Wang Lin appeared, the old man's eyes lit up. Junior Zhou Yanhong greets Senior. Her voice was very charming, and her expression was as calm as water. "If you can't give me a good reason for luring me here, don't blame me for being ruthless," said Wang Lin. His expression remained the same. The green-robed girl's eyes lit up. She then said, "Senior is very cunning. This little girl admires you." This girl was on the third floor, so she knew about everything that had happened. She knew that Wang Lin was a soul formation cultivator, but after seeing him offer 20,000 spirit stones, She raised the price by another 10,000. There had to be some reason for doing so. And after leaving the treasure refining pavilion, they didn't immediately leave but waited here for him. Wang Lin was instantly able to see through her. Don't waste time speaking about useless things. Wang Lin's voice was cold. The old man behind the green-robed girl snorted and took a step forward. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He gazed at the old man and said, "You have just reached the soul formation stage. Your cultivation isn't stable and you had to comprehend someone else's domain. Stand down." The old man's face darkened, but his heart was shocked. However, he clenched his teeth and stood firm. Wang Lin looked at the old man and flicked his finger. A ray of spiritual energy shot out. The old man's expression immediately changed as he quickly took out an umbrella treasure. He opened the umbrella and it released rainbow-colored light. Wang Lin snorted. "You overestimate yourself." Bang! The ray of spiritual energy landed on the umbrella, causing many cracks to appear on it, and its light dimmed. The old man was sent flying like he was hit by a powerful force. He was forced to back up several steps and his face turned red. It took a very long time for him to return to normal. Wang Lin didn't want to kill him. His gaze fell on the girl. The green-robed girl's eyes revealed a hint of dread. She took out a sealed box and offered it to Wang Lin. Wang Lin reached out and the box flew to him. He broke open the box, scanned it with his divine sense, made a copy, threw the jade back at the girl and asked, "Speak. Why did you lure me here?" The green-robed girl caught the jade. She took deep breath and said, "Senior Junior was rude, but I was forced to. Please consider the value of this rank 6 pill recipe, and help Junior once." Wang Lin's expression remained the same. The green-robed girl clenched her teeth and said, "Junior is from the faint mist sect of Zhou. My father is the sect master of our sect. 20 years ago, my dad entered the immortal graveyard and still hasn't returned. This immortal graveyard is one of the 2 most dangerous places in Suzaku, on par with the 9 Ghost Desolate Valley. Junior's cultivation isn't strong enough, so I was hoping Senior could accompany me there to retrieve my father's remains." With that, the green-robed girl revealed a look of sadness. She bit her lower lip and waited for Wang Lin's response. Wang Lin calmly said, "I don't have time." He took out the purple jade from his bag of holding and threw it at her. "This jade is worth 20,000 high-quality spirit stones. Consider it the payment for making this copy." With that, he disappeared in a ray of rainbow-colored light. The green-robed girl looked toward where Wang Lin disappeared and revealed a look of despair. She originally had given up hope, but when she saw Wang Lin on the 3rd floor, the old man next to her told her that Wang Lin was a soul formation cultivator. After hearing this, it ignited the hope in her heart. Then she saw the old man from the treasure refining pavilion, and was even more confident. This was why she bought the recipe. Her goal was to lure Wang Lin. Wang Lin indeed didn't have time. The recipe was for the rank 6 return to origin pill, something even people in rank 1 and 2 cultivation countries could refine. However, the ones they refined were rank 1 and 2 return to origin pills. The return to origin pill only had one use, and that was to increase the speed at which someone could absorb spiritual energy from the heavens and earth by several fold. The rank 6 return to origin pill did the same, only the speed of spiritual energy absorption was terrifying. However, there was a limit to this pill. A person could only take one every 100 years. If one were to take more than that, that person's body would be turned into crystal by the excessive spiritual energy. As a result, that person would become a human-shaped crystal with their soul sealed inside. After being refined for a very long time, the human-shaped crystal would become smaller and smaller. There was a chance for it to become a fake top-quality spirit stone. In ancient times, there was no way to get top-quality spirit stones beside letting them form naturally, so there weren't many of them around. As a result, they created high-ranking return to origin pills. In fact, even though the success rate of creating them wasn't high, most top-quality spirit stones back then were these fake ones. This kind of top-quality spirit stone was called a fake top-quality spirit stone. After seeing the description of this pill recipe, even with Wang Lin's mental fortitude, he was shocked. This pill recipe was too vicious. It said that all fake top-quality spirit stones had a thread of blood inside them, but they could only be seen by the origin soul of a soul formation or above cultivator. He took out his top-quality spirit stones and carefully looked at them one by one. I didn't think that all of them would have a thread of blood except for one. Wang Lin pondered for a bit before disappearing. 10 days later, Wang Lin's group appeared in an ancient transfer array at the edge of Chu. This time, when using the ancient transfer array, Wang Lin wasn't sure if he was hallucinating or not, but he heard a faint sigh of relief. This sound came from the top-quality spirit stone. They returned to the valley in Chu. This place hadn't changed at all since they left it. Lu Fei and XIAN went to where each of them were before and continued to cultivate to condense the spiritual energy in their bodies, so that they could reach the peak of the late stage of nascent soul sooner. Wang Lin's life calmed down again. He continued to treat Li Muan's body, while Li Muan studied the rank 6 pill recipe. Many of the ingredients were already extinct, so her job was to find replacements. She wasn't afraid of dying, but she didn't want to leave Wang Lin. In order to stay with Wang Lin, she put all of her effort into studying this pill recipe. Sometimes she would raise her head and see Wang Lin cultivating nearby. Her eyes would be filled with tenderness, and inside that tenderness there was sadness and love. Li Muan sighed in her heart. After a month of trying to find replacement ingredients, Ouyangzi was also called over by Wang Lin. Unfortunately, the other rank 5 alchemist Tian Yunzi died when he tried to reach the nascent soul stage years ago. With the three of them studying the recipe, the process would be a lot faster. Ouyangzi was crazy about alchemy. It was as if he was born to do alchemy. When he saw the rank 6 pill recipe, it was as if he had come across his purpose in life. He immediately became like a madman and began to study the substitutions and combinations of the 138 ingredients. Whenever they found a replacement, Lu Fei and Songqing would search around and send over the ingredient. If it was something the Cloud Sky sect didn't have, they would buy it at a high price from sects of other countries. If that was still not possible, they would find information about the location of the ingredient and have Lu Fei and XIAN gather them. Time quickly passed by. 2 years later, of the 138 ingredients, only 3 were left. Sadly, they still hadn't found replacements for these 3. In these 2 years, Ouyangzi had forgotten about everything else. He was completely focused on the rank 6 pill recipe. As for Li Muan, in these 2 years she slowly aged. Her skin was no longer snow white. It was now starting to show a bit of gray. 2 years of endless body maintenance done by injecting spiritual energy into her body wasn't able to stop the life and death cycle of the heavens. The reluctance in Li Muan's eyes became even stronger. On this night, it began to rain inside the valley. After Li Muan fell asleep, Wang Lin stood in the rain by himself while looking at the mountain in the distance. The pain in his heart became even stronger. Wan Er's body is becoming weaker and weaker. If she tries to reach the nascent soul stage by force, her body will not be able to handle it. It will be destroyed. At that moment, the incomplete nascent soul will only dissipate. I won't even be able to extract her soul. Wang Lin stared into the distance and let out a sigh. He looked very sad as he took out a wine gourd and took a big gulp. He sat down and leaned against the stone house. This wine was the fruit wine. There wasn't much of it left in Wang Lin's bag. Every time he drank this, he would think of Donghua bringing him wine. "Uncle Wang, you came to the capital to make a lot of money so you can go back home to marry your wife, right? After Uncle has made a lot of money, he is going to go home to get married." This scene from the past appeared in his mind. He finished drinking all the wine in a few gulps, then he raised his head and looked up at the sky. Just at this moment, a scream of excitement came from Ouyangzi's room. Shortly after, Ouyangzi came running out from the room. He was startled to find Wang Lin out in the rain. He quickly walked up and said, "Sect Master, I found the substitute ingredients for the last 3 ingredients." Wang Lin's eyes became serious as he looked at Ouyangzi. Ouyangzi quickly took out a jade. He handed it to Wang Lin and said, "Those 3 ingredients are extinct, but I found a combination of 37 other ingredients that will have the same effect. Although the effect will be weaker, it shouldn't deviate too much from the original." Wang Lin accepted the jade, scanned it with his divine sense, and instantly memorized it. Ouyangzi said, "These ingredients are quite rare. The Cloud Sky sect only has 4 of them. We will have to go to a rank 4 cultivation country to get the rest." Wang Lin stood up. With the jade in hand, he disappeared. The moment he left, Li Muwen opened her eyes and revealed a trace of sadness. You can never see me during my loneliest hours because I'm only lonely when you're not around. 2 streams of tears rolled down from Li Muwen's eyes. Thin lines had appeared on her forehead. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the past 2 years. Wang Lin didn't waste too much time. 7 months later, he came back with a tired expression. During these 7 months, Wang Lin didn't rest at all. He had gone to most rank 4 cultivation countries and even some rank 5 cultivation countries. He finally managed to get all of the ingredients by either buying, trading, or stealing. In these 7 months, he experienced a lot of danger. The most dangerous time was in a rank 5 cultivation country against a mid-stage soul formation cultivator with a very special domain. The domain was Forget. Wang Lin was able to win in the end, but it was very close. The Forget domain really scared Wang Lin. The other occasion was with a late-stage soul formation cultivator. Although his domain was pretty normal, he was about to reach the peak of late-stage soul formation. His domain was ever-changing under his command. In hindsight, Wang Lin calculated that this person's power was slightly above red butterflies. In the end, Wang Lin fought to a standstill against this person. In these 7 months, Wang Lin realized that among soul formation cultivators, red butterfly wasn't the strongest. Although these people hadn't reached the soul transformation stage, they were very powerful. Especially those with special domains, they had abnormal strength. After returning to Chu, Wang Lin quickly moved toward the valley. Inside the valley, Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and found that both XIAN and Lu Fei were both 500 meters closer to the pagoda than before. Both of their cultivation levels had raised a bit. Wang Lin appeared outside the stone house. He opened the door and his body shook. What he saw was someone's back. This figure had a head of long hair, but half of the hair was white. Wang Lin's heart ached. He walked up and stood beside Li Muwen. He looked at her beautiful face that was now even older. Wang Lin whispered, "Wan Er, I'm back. I have gathered the ingredients." Li Muwen faintly smiled. She didn't say anything as she looked at Wang Lin. She whispered, "Don't leave anymore, just spend more time with me. I don't have much time left." Wang Lin looked at Li Muwen and once again said, with a serious expression, "You won't die." Li Muwen bit her lower lip and gently nodded. She leaned against Wang Lin and closed her eyes. Wang Lin's return caused Ouyangzi to become devoted in refining the rank 6 pill. His life stream was to refine a rank 6 pill. It was like his soul had been ignited. Almost all of the substitute ingredients were things he chose after researching for a very long time. He used more than 1,000 ingredients to replace these 138 ingredients. This calculation included the effect of each ingredient and how long it would take to refine each of them. If he didn't have the alchemy experience to back it up, there would be no way for him to refine it. Even Ouyangzi couldn't be careless about this. He didn't care about Li Muwen at all. This was just for himself. He was about to fulfill his life stream. He told himself countless times that he could fail as many times as he needed in his life, but he couldn't fail this time. As the refining process continued, Ouyangzi's temper became even worse. Sometimes he would even become impatient toward Wang Lin when he came to ask about the progress. It was not because he wasn't afraid of Wang Lin, but due to his personality. He had forgotten about the world. In his mind, only the pill mattered. Wang Lin didn't mind Ouyangzi's temper. In fact, he thought that among all the people in the Cloud Sky sect, Ouyangzi was the one to most likely reach the soul formation stage. Because he was obsessed with alchemy, it was likely that he would be able to comprehend the heavens and gain a domain. However, his cultivation was still stuck at the mid-stage of nascent soul. If he could reach the peak of the late stage, then reaching the soul formation stage was only a matter of time. The days slowly passed by. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. Ouyangzi's refining was still going. It seemed like he was stuck at some kind of barrier, so his temper became even worse. One could occasionally hear him shouting in rage. After Wang Lin's return, he had spent every second at Li Muwen's side. Her hair was now completely white. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin had been transferring spiritual energy into her non-stop for the last 3 years, her beauty would have long been dried up as time brought change. 3 more years had passed when Ouyang had a breakthrough in his alchemy. Although he hadn't finished the pill, it wasn't far away. The heavy smell of medication came from his stone house. Li Muan's body had become extremely weak. She could no longer move. She could only lie in the bed and look at Wang Lin. The reluctance in her eyes became even stronger. I can't fight the life and death cycle, and time won't wait for me. When will you come to take me away? In my left hand is the brief karma from the Sea of Devils, and in my right hand is more than 100 years of loneliness. Li Muan was quietly lying on her bed wearing a white dress. Although her face had aged, her eyes were still bright as she stared at the man before her. She wanted to carve the person's image into her memory. She didn't know if what she felt for the man before her was true love, but she knew that in those 100 years, whenever she played music, his image would appear in her mind. Wang Lin grabbed Li Muan's hand with a gentle smile on his face while his heart felt like it was being cut apart. Li Muan moved her gaze to outside the window and whispered, "Wang Lin, last night I had a dream. I saw my big brother smiling at me, and there were two elders behind him. They looked like my parents." Li Muan's parents died when she was very young. It was her big brother that raised her. Wang Lin's heart hurt even more. At night, Wang Lin stood outside the stone room, looking toward Zhao. His heart called out to it. In Zhao, deep under Hengyu Mountain, a red-haired young man with a face as cold as never-melting ice suddenly opened his eyes. When he opened his eyes, the entire country of Zhao shook. It was as if some kind of demon was awakening, shocking every cultivator in Zhao. His original body's eyes were filled with coldness and ruthlessness. On his forehead were two spinning purple stars, and around his body was purple lightning. He slightly turned his head. His gaze seemed like it could pierce the earth as he looked toward Chu. He ripped open the ground and walked toward Chu underground. 6 months quickly went by. Li Muan's body was even weaker now, and her soul was on the verge of collapsing. The life and death cycle was constantly pulling her, as if it wanted to completely take her away from Wang Lin. On this day, Ouyangzi came over with a bright red pill. There was hint of excitement he couldn't hide as he gave it to Wang Lin. Ouyangzi completed a rank 6 pill. After he finished speaking, his eyes dimmed and he fell down. He didn't die, but he was very weak. Holding the pill, Wang Lin looked at Li Muan, who was on her deathbed. Her hair was all white and her once young and beautiful face had been affected by the passage of time. In these several years, Wang Lin personally saw her slowly age and her beauty drying up. Endless sorrow filled the sea in his heart. However, the sea was too deep and too large. In the end, the sea turned into 2 streams of tears. He walked the path that defied the heavens and cultivated the domain of life and death. His life was filled with twists and turns, and while his heart was tired, he still believed. However, at this moment, although his expression didn't change, his heart aged as the girl before him aged. In his eyes, the age of this girl was but an illusion. In his eyes, the girl will forever remain how she looked back in the Sea of Devils, back when she was playing the zither in her loft, back when she stood there watching him leave. Wang Lin gently touched Li Muan's face as he slowly put the pill in his hand into her mouth. The pill immediately melted in her mouth and her face became red. In an instant, an endless amount of spiritual energy surged from all over Chu and entered Li Muan's body. The stone house couldn't withstand this powerful spiritual energy, so cracks began to appear all over it. With a blow of the wind, the stone house turned to dust and disappeared. Lu Fei and XIAN were awakened from their cultivation. The expressions on their faces immediately changed. At this moment, Ouyangzi's body was pushed away by a gentle force and landed before Lu Fei and XIAN. Wang Lin's voice drifted toward them saying, "Take Ouyangzi and wait for me in the cloud sky sect." XIAN didn't say anything. He quickly grabbed Ouyangzi and left with Lu Fei. It wasn't until they were more than 50 kilometers away that they turned around and looked back. Although the stone house was destroyed, Li Muan's body was still floating in the air. Boundless amounts of spiritual energy surged into her body, causing her face to become more red. Slowly, a golden core formed in her body. The moment the golden core appeared, it caused all of the spiritual energy to rush into it. Wang Lin formed many seals that landed on the golden core. His expression was extremely serious, and he started making the seals even faster until a crack appeared on the golden core. The rank 6 return to origin pill's purpose was to make the person who consumes it absorb spiritual energy much faster to break through a bottleneck. However, Li Muan's body was too weak. With her life almost over, it was hard to withstand this. Wang Lin flew into the sky. He wasn't looking at Li Muwen. Instead, he raised his head toward the sky with a determined expression on his face. His greatest enemy was the heavens, the life and death cycle. Li Muwen's golden core began to crack even more as it absorbed more spiritual energy. Golden light was leaking through the cracks. However, the light wasn't blinding. Instead, it emitted a gentle feeling. However, just at this moment, gray gas appeared around her body. The amount of gray gas quickly increased and completely covered her body. Wang Lin's life and death domain had already covered Li Muwen's entire body, but compared to this gray veil, it was trivial. Mortals couldn't see this gray veil. Even most cultivators couldn't see it. Only Wang Lin, who cultivated the life and death domain, could. Only he understood what it was. This gray veil was the law of the heavens, it was the life and death cycle, it was the sign that someone was about to die. Li Muwen's eyes showed a deep sense of reluctance. She looked at Wang Lin with a nostalgic gaze and then looked around before slowly closing her eyes. A teardrop fell from the corner of her eye. The teardrop slowly fell down, creating a weak sound when it landed on the ground. This sound entered Wang Lin's ears. It made him feel like past was collapsing. No one knew if where that tear fell will create a field of memories and sorrow by next year. The moment she closed her eyes, her golden core immediately dimmed and then shattered soon after. A small person who looked exactly like the Li Muwen of the past appeared. Her eyes were pure, but they quickly closed due to Li Muwen's death. Wang Lin, I'm willing to give up everything. Even if the stars fall, as long as you are willing to accompany me, your heart is the brightest light. Wang Lin, I'm willing to give up everything. Even if all my past lives are destroyed, it won't extinguish my reluctance to leave you. Wang Lin, I'm willing to give up everything. Even if my life ends, even if time passes on, I hope the flower of memories never wilt. Wang Lin, this is the karma between us. This is the choice of the heavens. In the we are ink and water struggling under the heavens. Even if the heavens want you to die, I'll steal you back. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with sadness. He suddenly raised his head and with a determined gaze, his life and death domain surged forth. In the sky above the valley, that black and white scroll appeared once more and slowly opened up. It was as if there was a giant hand moving across the scroll, creating waves of ripples on as it went by. The moment the scroll appeared, a thunderous roar spread throughout Chu. Li Muwen's body quickly decayed and turned to dust as it fell to the ground. Her nascent soul was also quickly dissipating. However, as Wang Lin's life and death scroll covered the sky, the speed at which her nascent soul was dissipating slowed down. Wang Lin then charged forth and appeared in the sky. He reached out toward the scroll and pulled down. The scroll quickly surrounded Li Muwen's nascent soul. Now that the scroll was gone, a very strange scene unfolded. Red clouds covered the sky, and two shocking lights appeared within the rolling red clouds. They seemed to be looking at Wang Lin. This unfamiliar yet familiar gaze caused Wang Lin's body to tremble. However, he still stared at the sky with a determined look. Behind him was Li Muwen's nascent soul wrapped up in the scroll. Wang Lin was using his own life and death domain to prevent Li Muwen's nascent soul from dissipating. He was going to fight against the heavens. Even if the heavens want you dead, I'll still steal you back. This was a promise, as well as Wang Lin's declaration of war against the heavens. The two rays of light in the sky slowly disappeared. However, shortly after, countless red clouds condensed into a giant hand and reached toward Li Muwen's nascent soul. Wang Lin let out a shout. He quickly grabbed the scroll and then flew into the distance. The giant hand seemed to be able to bypass distance and reached toward the scroll in Wang Lin's hand. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He raised his head and clashed with the giant hand. Bang! Wang Lin's origin soul shook violently. It was knocked out of his body. However, he quickly returned to his body and his divine sense spread out. He was looking for something. The giant hand was retracted and the two eyes inside the red clouds appeared again and looked at the scroll in Wang Lin's hand. Then the giant hand descended again. Wang Lin roared, "Original body!" The moment the giant hand got close, the ground began to shake. A cold-faced young man with red hair charged out from the ground and slammed into the hand. Bang! The hand was bounced back several meters. The pair of eyes in the clouds locked onto the red-haired man. The original body's expression remained the same. It was as if that hand earlier was just a gentle breath. However, the two purple stars on its forehead were rapidly spinning. It stood before Wang Lin and coldly stared at the sky. The eyes in the red clouds disappeared again, and the amount of red clouds increased. This time, a large amount of red clouds entered the hand. The previously illusionary hand became more solid, and 5 deadly fingers formed. It attacked once again. This time, as the hand got closer, 5 spatial rifts were opened by its 5 fingers as they chased after Wang Lin. Wang Lin let out a roar. He slapped his bag and took out the restriction flag. A lance quickly formed and he threw it at the hand. At the same time, the spinning of the purple stars on the original body suddenly paused, and crackling sounds came from all over the body. It turned into a 30-foot-tall giant with a hint of purple light under its skin. The body emitted a grim aura. The original body was starting to look like an ancient god. The original body's eyes were filled with battle intent. It quickly stepped toward the hand and grabbed the lance. With a bang, it lunged toward the hand. However, with a boom like the heavens were collapsing, the lance shattered and turned back into restriction gas. The original body was hit with a powerful force and crashed down into the ground. When it landed on the ground, many cracks appeared around it. The original body kept sinking and only stopped when it was 1,500 kilometers underground. A stream of blood came out from the corner of the original body's mouth. Its will to battle increased even more, causing its blood to boil as it charged out once more. Wang Lin hadn't stopped moving. He was rapidly flying away with his divine sense spread out. Then he suddenly locked on to a mountain village 5,000 kilometers away. The giant hand chased after Wang Lin after knocking his original body away. The eyes inside the red cloud didn't show any sign of changing. The moment it arrived, Wang Lin suddenly turned around. He focused all of his spiritual energy into his finger and touched the palm of the hand with it. Bang! Wang Lin was sent flying. He coughed out a mouthful of blood, which landed on the scroll and disappeared into it. Li Muan's nascent soul, which was almost dead, suddenly gained a hint of life. He was fighting against the heaven's reincarnation cycle for this woman. The giant hand reached out once more. The original body charged out of the ground and let out a roar. It stopped before Wang Lin and slammed into the giant hand with its right fist. Bang! The original body spat out a mouthful of blood and began to laugh maniacally. The giant hand had been knocked back several meters. The original body let out a loud laugh as it walked forward and continued to punch the giant hand. Bang! 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 With each impact, his original body would bleed more from the corner of its mouth, but its will to fight kept on increasing. I'm an ancient god, so I'm naturally a heaven-defying existence. If you wish to take her, you will have to walk over my dead body. A figure suddenly appeared behind the original body. Its feet were on the ground, but its head was in the sky. The figure was not standing but kneeling with one leg on the ground. Its head was down like it was asleep. The original body laughed like a madman as it continued to throw out punches, knocking the giant hand back. As the original body kept attacking, the figure behind him gradually raised its head. The eyes inside the red clouds were still calm. These eyes belonged to the messenger of the heavens. He had no emotions. His only goal was to follow the rules of the heavens and pull anyone who wished to escape the cycle of life and death back in. The original body's strength was far beyond any cultivator's. Wang Lin quickly left with the scroll in his arms. The giant hand was eventually pushed back into the red clouds and disappeared. But in the blink of an eye, the hand charged out of the red clouds again. This time the hand was almost completely solid, and it was several times more powerful than before. The hand wasn't open anymore. It was a fist that collided with the original body. With a bang, countless parts of the original body were damaged as it fell from the sky. The figure behind the original body seemed to have woken up. As it raised its head, a powerful force surged out of its body. The original body suddenly stopped falling. Then it flew up to the forehead of the figure. The giant hand ignored the figure and smashed toward Wang Lin, who had already flown far away. Wang Lin had been keeping track of everything that was happening behind him. He clenched his teeth and teleported. The 5,000-kilometer distance was crossed in one teleport. Below his feet was a paradise-like village. The children were playing as if the earth-shattering battle 5,000 kilometers away couldn't be heard. They actually couldn't hear it, though. No one but Wang Lin in his original body could see and feel the power from the heavens. The only thing that others could see and hear was the hole the original body had made. But by the time the sound from that impact traveled this far, it was too weak to be noticed. In this village of less than 100 people, a woman was currently cooking porridge. She would occasionally raise her head to look at the children playing outside while touching her stomach. Floating in the air above the village, Wang Lin shook the scroll. Li Muwen's nascent soul came out of the scroll and immediately began to dissipate. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a hint of tenderness as he pointed at Li Muwen's nascent soul. Her nascent soul flew like a meteor toward the village. At this moment, the giant fist arrived. It suddenly came down from the sky, smashing toward Li Muwen's nascent soul. Wang Lin quickly blocked the fist. Bang! Wang Lin coughed out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were bloodshot right now. He then quickly took out 9 wooden carvings with the domain of time. The giant fist descended once more and shattered 6 of the wooden carvings. The fist passed through the remaining wooden carvings, went around Wang Lin, and once more chased after Li Muwen's nascent soul. Wang Lin let out a roar and once again arrived in front of the fist. He didn't have any time to use any technique, so he blocked it with his body. Bang! Wang Lin was bleeding from his orifices, but he began to laugh. He continued to laugh. Eventually, the laughter sounded like it was filled with madness. You want to wipe out one heir to force her back into the reincarnation cycle? I, Wang Lin, won't let you. The cold eyes in the red clouds looked at Wang Lin and the fist descended again. Wang Lin blocked it once more. This time, many parts of his body shattered and blood spewed out of his mouth and nose. However, his expression was now even more mad as he looked at the eyes in the clouds and laughed. I cultivated the domain of life and death. One day, I'll make the heavens reincarnation cycle mine. Then I'll make the reincarnation cycle follow my commands and make you, an illusion created by the reincarnation cycle, bow before me. The gaze in the red clouds was still calm as if it were looking at a sad mortal spouting nonsense. Li Muwen's nascent soul had already entered the village and silently fused with the flesh inside that woman's stomach. The eyes looked at the village before turning back to Wang Lin. Then the giant fist fell once more. This time there was a suction force coming from the fist, and it was covered in lightning. This punch was punishment for obstructing the will of the heavens. The moment the fist started moving, the original body arrived. A ray of blood-red light charged in from the distance and fused together with Wang Lin. Wang Lin and his original body suddenly disappeared. They were replaced by a 10-foot-tall person with long hair. This person's left eye was like the moon and his right eye was like the sun. This person was covered in an aura composed of a mix of the ancient god's power and the life and death domain. The current Wang Lin was no longer a cultivator or an ancient god, but a never-before-seen combination. His body was as powerful as an ancient god's, but he had the origin soul of a cultivator. This was a combination of inner and outer cultivation methods. Wang Lin raised his head. Behind him was the figure with its head raised. If one looked closely, they would see an origin soul the size of a person in the figure's chest. There were vein-like things that extended from the origin soul to the entire body of the figure. That original soul was like the heart of the ancient god. Without waiting for the fist to land, Wang Lin stepped forth and flew toward the fist. Bang! 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 Wang Lin's body was sent flying and he kept on coughing out blood. However, he laughed the entire time. His laugh was filled with arrogance. Now that she has been reincarnated with her nascent soul, her life has been extended. This falls in line with the laws of the heavens. As long as she doesn't cultivate, she will be able to escape the eyes of the heavens. 19 years from now, when her nascent soul reforms, you will come back, but I'll stop you again. The eyes in the red cloud calmly looked at Wang Lin for a while before disappearing. Even the giant fist disappeared. The red cloud scattered. Wang Lin flew to where the pagoda was and landed next to it. His original body separated from him, coughed out some blood, and sat down to cultivate. After a very long time, Wang Lin opened his eyes. He quickly sat down, took out some pills, and started to manage the spiritual energy in his body. 3 days later, he and his original body both opened their eyes at the same time. My injury is too serious this time. I must go into closed-door cultivation to recover. Wang Lin secretly thought that the messenger of the heavens had no intent on killing him until that very last blow. The messenger had no emotions. It did everything by the rules. With how much of Wan Er's nascent soul dissipated, it will take her 19 years to recover and awaken. Once she awakens, the heavens will come again to wipe out anyone who dares to try to escape the heavens' law. Wang Lin stared at the sky. Wang Lin stood up. At the same time, his original body silently flew away toward the giant hole that was created during the battle. It landed in the hole and sank down. As it sank, the dirt around the hole followed it in. Soon the hole was filled. It was like it was never there. Thousands of kilometers underground, the original body sat there cultivating. The two purple stars on its forehead spun rapidly. A faint purple light came out of its body, forming a small ball of light beside him. The injury the original body suffered was much heavier than Wang Lin's, especially on that last attack where the original body took 70% of the damage. However, with the strength of the original body's body, it was not life-threatening, but it had to go into closed-door cultivation as well. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He then slapped his bag of holding and took out a jade. After leaving a message inside, he threw it into the sky and it disappeared, leaving a streak of light. After doing all of this, Wang Lin sat down next to the pagoda and activated the sliver of Zhou Yi's domain. Unless an ascendant cultivator comes, no one else will be able to approach him. Just like this, Wang Lin closed his eyes and silently healed his injuries. During the day, the rays from the sun landed on Wang Lin, giving him a hint of warmth. At night, the moonlight quietly arrived, bringing with it the cold of the night. On rainy days, the rain fell down from the sky and landed on Wang Lin, completely soaking him almost instantly. On snowy days, the snow slowly fell from the sky, covering everything. No matter where one looked, everything was covered in white. There was even a snowman next to the pagoda. Whether it was day or night, rainy or snowy, Wang Lin's body still wouldn't move. He was like an old, dead monk. There was no vitality coming from his body. 6 months after the battle, spring came again. In the old Zhou's home in Apricot Village, a baby was born. Her name was Zhou. This baby girl was born crying like other babies, but no one knew that this cry was different than a normal baby's cry. The baby girl's body was very weak. Luckily, old Zhou was respected in Apricot Village. He also owned a store, so his life was better than most people's. There was a cave in the mountain 50 kilometers away from the Apricot Village. XIAN had been cultivating there for more than 6 months. 6 months ago, XIAN and Lu Fei received Wang Lin's message ordering one of them to come and guard Li Muan. After the two talked about it, XIAN came. His divine sense was locked onto the village at all times as he silently guarded it. Wang Lin's healing continued. The snow outside the pagoda had already turned to water and was absorbed by the earth. The original body was thousands of kilometers underground. During these 6 months, it had gone deeper 3 times. Each time it did so, it sank several thousand kilometers. The original body had already traveled 1/5 of the way to the planet's core. It was not a lie that the ancient gods grew in battle. After this fierce battle, the original body was showing signs of breaking through. Although it was slow, he had already reached the peak of the 2-star stage. The third transformation was not far away. In the blink of an eye, a year passed by. Zhou was now 1 year old. Most children at this age would start making sounds even if they couldn't speak, but Zhou remained silent. Thus, the people of the village began a rumor stating that this girl was a mute. On this day, a group of people walked out of a normal transfer array on the edge of Chu. Among them was a woman wearing a veil. There was a hint of fatigue in her eyes, but they still shined like the stars and would mesmerize almost anyone. Following behind her was an old man. The old man was wearing an old black coat, and his eyes were dim. It was like he was going through a severe illness. If Wang Lin saw them, he would recognize them as the two that had bought the rank 6 pill recipe. Beside the two of them stood a white-haired old man. He was the soul formation cultivator from the treasure refining pavilion named Hu. Behind him were 3 people. One of them was someone Wang Lin knew well, Qiu Siping. The other 2 were Su Luo and a very beautiful woman. This woman was the person who delivered the purple jade. After the 6 of them exited the transfer array, the old man looked toward the north and said, Although Chu isn't the quickest way to enter the immortal graveyard, it is easier than going through Zhou. The woman with the white veil nodded and said, "What Senior said is correct. Although going through Chu takes longer, there is no checkpoint to pass through like there is in Zhou, so it is much easier." The old man named Hu flew forward. Everyone else quickly followed. Qiu Siping secretly sighed. After Wang Lin left, he decided to follow Old Man Hu in hopes of reaching the soul formation stage one day. Although his cultivation level had risen in the last 10 years, it was still too far away from the soul formation stage. He believed that if he were able to obtain that object in the immortal graveyard, then reaching the soul formation stage would no longer be a dream. The woman secretly sighed. During these 10 years, she had reached out to many soul formation cultivators. In the end, she remembered that the treasure refining pavilion had a soul formation cultivator. After she revealed some secrets she hadn't told Wang Lin, she was able to convince the old man to help. The 6 of them flew north. They passed by many sects, but no one dared to stop them. Old Man Hu was surprised. "I haven't come to Chu in over 100 years. There seems to be many changes." Behind him, Su Luo respectfully said, "Ancestor, in these recent years, the Cloud Sky sect has devoured several other sects and officially became the #1 sect in Chu." Old Man Hu nodded and said, "The Cloud Sky sect focuses on alchemy, so they must have a lot of nascent soul cultivators. When we return from the immortal graveyard, remind me to take a trip to the Cloud Sky sect to ask for some pills." Su Luo faintly smiled. He was sure that the Cloud Sky sect would immediately hand over pills for their own safety. As the 6 of them flew, a pillar of light shot into the sky. From where they were, the pillar was only as thick as a baby's fist, but if they were closer, the pillar would be countless times larger. Old Man Hu suddenly turned toward the pillar of light. Even with his experience, he was shocked. The eyes of the old man who was behind the woman suddenly lit up as he looked toward the pillar of light. He was also shocked. This pillar of light was coming from the center of Chu, where the Heavens Tower was. This is a messenger from an upper cultivation country descending. But a messenger from a rank 4 cultivation country wouldn't cause this big of a commotion. The more the old man looked, the more shocked he became. Then, several golden dragons appeared around the pillar of light, and soon, a white-robed young man slowly walked out. The moment he walked out, the golden dragons let out roars. Even with how far the 6 of them were, they were able to clearly hear the roars. Shortly after, the golden dragons all charged at young man in white. Right as they were about to collide, they turned into countless golden threads and became embroidered onto the young man's clothes. "A messenger from Suzaku." The old man revealed an aghast expression. He realized that something big was about to happen in Chu. Why else would a messenger from Suzaku come to a mere rank 3 cultivation country? The woman's face revealed a trace of panic. The old man took a step forward and stood in front of her. The panic on the woman's face quickly disappeared, but her clenched fist was covered in sweat. Qiu Siping, Su Luo, and the beautiful woman were all shocked. Qiu Siping was especially shocked. He looked at the light and muttered, "This is the first time I've seen someone from Suzaku." Suzaku. The beautiful woman took a deep breath and softly asked, "Ancestor, why did a messenger from Suzaku came to Chu?" "Fellow cultivator Gong-sun, what do you think?" Old man who looked toward the old man wearing the old black coat. The old man slowly said, "Fellow cultivator who, I have just entered the soul formation stage, so I don't know many things about Suzaku. However, I believe that something big is about to happen. I don't know what it is, but why else would a messenger from Suzaku come to Chu?" Old man who secretly thought, "Rubbish." His gaze turned toward the pillar of light. Just at this moment, the pillar of light started to fade. The young man in white flew toward the 6 of them like a meteor. The woman with the white veil's body trembled. Her eyes were filled with extreme fear. This scene was noticed by Old Man Hu. He didn't show any reaction on his face, but a hint of doubt appeared in his heart.